What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. And with no further ado, let's get into my picks for this week. Starting off with tonight's game, Cardinals hosting the Seahawks. An NFC West clash, both teams 2-1. Both losses to the Niners, shockingly. But I'm going with Seattle on the road. I just trust Seattle more so because Arizona, at least these first few weeks, it's like they really have what's the word? But like the first couple of weeks is like they haven't really played the greatest. Like the first 2 weeks they were dominating the Saints and Panthers, and then they still let those teams somehow drive down and have an attempt to um win those games. And against the Niners, their offense, no, it was against Robert Saleh, great defensive coordinator, but they couldn't do a thing. And then their defense makes a play, gets that safety, and then all they had to do was just force San Fran to call their timeouts, try to get a first down. Instead, they, for some reason, threw it downfield. It was incomplete. Marv hasn't been the greatest. I don't know what's going on with Arizona. Like, I kind of expected this team to beat bad. Like, I figured, okay, last year, Kyler, not fully back from the injury. Marv, adjusting to the NFL. I felt, this year they were going to be better on offense and complement this defense, but it hasn't been like that in Seattle. I just trust Sam Darnold in this offense to play well, and I trust this defense to get after Kyler and make plays. Moving on down to um the Germany game, Dublin Vikings and Steelers. Minnesota coming off that blowout win over the Bengals. They have a 3 week stretch. They play three AFC North teams and the Bengals, Steelers, and Browns. So we'll see. Coming off a game they probably should have won. They only won because the defense finally um, was making plays and forcing turnovers. Because if it wasn't for that, New England would have dominated that game. I'm gonna go with the Vikings. They're technically the road team, but it is a neutral site game, so it's like either team. Like there's no like core like it's not like it's Heinz Field where they're playing. I feel like neutral site game, Minnesota, who looked impressive. That defense is amazing. I think they'll be able to get after Rodgers with how bad the O line looks. And I think Minnesota's offense can carve up Pittsburgh's leaky defense and move on to 3-1. Moving on now to the Sunday slate, starting off Tennessee at Houston. Really a make or break game for both teams. Because I don't think any team, at least that I can think of, has started 0-4 and made the playoffs. So you kind of like if you're going to compete late in the season, I'm gonna trust Houston. I'm gonna trust this defense to get after Cam Ward, who's been the most sacked QB despite the offensive line being invested to the past couple of years. I'm just trusting Houston. And I mean, Tennessee's defense played really good the first 2 weeks, and then they got destroyed by Indy's offense. Now it could just be because Indy's offense is good, but I'm trusting Houston's defense to make plays, help out this offense at home. The Texans get their first win of the year. Moving on to a battle of the undefeateds. We go from battle of winless to battle of the undefeated Eagles at Bucks. Mike Evans will be out substantial time. So is Nolan Smith. I saw he was put on the IR, so he'll miss at least the next 4 weeks. um, and I'm still out on the Eagles. Like they've barely been able to beat these teams the first couple of weeks. Like if it wasn't for some turnovers in the first couple of games and LA forgetting how to play football in the second half, and 2 blocked field goals. Philly's probably 0-3, not 3-0. Tampa's been able to, you know, have these game-winning drives, which isn't really that sustainable, but it's just I trust Tampa Bay the lit despite all the injuries they've had on the O line and now in the receiver room and even on the defense, it's like they somehow still have able to win these games. And I think at home they moved to 4-0 and they look like a real deal contender. Philly, I'm not gonna say I'm 100% out. It's just I feel like once they play a team that isn't gonna turn the ball over and isn't gonna make mistakes, they're gonna get exposed, kind of like they did back in 2023. It's just this year they have a better defense and a similar offense. Moving on to a battle of 1 and 2 teams: Panthers, Patriots. Bryce Young. I mean, Carolina looked amazing last year. Bryce Young had the greatest game, but it was Atlanta's defense, which I think is much improved. But I mean, Carolina's defense made plays, 2 picks, shut down Atlanta's offense, and we saw New England another winnable game. Like New England could be 3-0. It's just the Vegas and Steelers games at home. They just you know had an opportunity to win those games, but like just for some reason couldn't because of mistakes by the team. Um, I'm not sure. Young QBs, and actually Drake May was originally going to be Crimson Tide before switching to be a Tar Heel. So Bryce Young and Drake May would have been college teammates at least for 2 seasons. You know, I'm gonna go with kind of a hard one to pick because, like, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Panthers. Um, I just think the way New England just can't get out of their own way. I feel like Carolina will be able to play well and get the win. Moving on, Chargers at the Giants. Jackson Dart making his official NFL first start. Us being benched. But this is a hard game. I think LA's defense is going to have Dart. I think this LA defense is going to attack him, make him feel uncomfortable, and this offense is going to do just enough. Kind of like we saw last week against the Chiefs. Like LA's offense is going to do just enough, and their defense is going to be able to make Dart look like a rookie. Moving on, Washington and Atlanta. Jaden Daniels' status is unclear. I think he'd be playing, but if not, Marcus Mariota taking on Michael Penix from the Falcons, who had an opportunity to move to 2-1, but blew it. So battle of the 1-2s, and I'm gonna take Dan Quinn to get his revenge against his old team on the road. It's just the way Washington looked pretty damn great against I know a not so great Raiders team, but it's like Washington looked really good despite no Jaden Daniels. And Atlanta, got dominated by a Panthers team that a lot of people were saying we're gonna have to move on from Bryce Young at the end of the year. Raheem Morris also I think was on that Washington coaching staff back in 2012. He gets to go against his former um, team as well. But I think if Jaden Daniels plays, I think no one. I think even if Marcus Mariota plays against another former team of the Falcons, they could win. Moving on, Bills hosting the Saints. I think this is self-explanatory. New Orleans looked like the worst team in the league last week. I mean, I know it was on the run in Seattle, and if it wasn't for a punt return touchdown and a block punt, maybe the game's closer, but still, Seattle dominated. And I think once again on the run against a really good team, the Bills, I think they moved to 4-0. The Bills are looking like a for real Super Bowl contender. Now we'll see. It's like them, the Ravens, and other teams. It's not really about how they play in the regular season, it's about how they play in the postseason. But so far, Buffalo's looked really good, and we'll see if they can continue into a Super Bowl run. Moving on, Browns at the Lions. This should be a good game. Cleveland's defense is, I think, the best in the league. They shut down Green Bay. Um, Meanwhile, Detroit dominated the Ravens. I mean, they look like the more physical team, and I think this will be a good game. But Detroit's just the better team. Like the Lions are just, they're the better team, and I think, despite Cleveland having a really good defense and being able to keep this close, I just think Detroit's going to be able to put up enough points where Cleveland's going to be not able to come back. Moving on to the 4 o'clock slate, Colts at the Rams. Indiana Jones, Danny Dimes, whatever you want to call him. He's been looking amazing, but taking on a Rams team blew that huge lead. And I think they're going to want to come out and um, prove that they probably should have won that game. And I think Indy's going to lose just because I think they've had a really easy schedule so far. I mean, they played Denver, but Broncos haven't exactly looked like what everybody thought they were going to be preseason. And then they played the Dolphins and Titans, who are like two of the worst teams in the league. So I think LA is going to be able to get this offense clicking. The defense is going to play well, and I think it'll be a tough back and forth game. I think it'll be close to the end. I think the Rams, with their veteran, team, get the win. We're on the Jags at the Niners. Jacksonville. I mean, that defense might be for real. I'm still waiting for them to play like a really good offense and see how they perform there. But that defense has looked pretty good and led them to 2 wins against the Panthers and Texans. San Fran, they've kind of lucked out, because week 1 against Seattle, it's like if Tariq Woolen gets that pick, Seattle wins the game, or Sam Darnold doesn't fumble. Then week 2, it's a back and forth affair between Rattler and Mac Jones. Then Rattler fumbles the ball, and New Orleans isn't able to get the first down. And then last week against the Cardinals, Arizona had momentum, felt like they were going to win, and then they blow it at the end. I'm going to go with the Jags. I think it'll be a defensive game, but I just trust Jacksonville, who's been able to play really good defense and get turnovers. I think can make those plays, and San Fran's bound to lose eventually, and I think it happens this week. Moving on to the Bears at the Raiders. Battle of the 1 and 2 teams for another time. Chicago coming off an impressive, dominating win against a Cowboys team that seemingly isn't as good as people probably thought after the first couple of weeks, taking on a Raiders team that a lot of people, not me, but a lot of people were paying to beat Washington because no Jaden Daniels. This was a bounce back spot for Vegas. Um, but I'm gonna go with Chicago. It's just that offense really clicked, and maybe it was just bad Dallas secondary play or bad defensive play. But I think Chicago, I think this offense clicking, they're gonna get in the right gear, and it's just Vegas. I think this offensive line might be one of the worst, maybe the worst in the league. But I think Chicago, who doesn't have the greatest pass rush, I think could have forced some pressure. I think Vegas' defense is starting to get exposed for not being the greatest unit. Moving on, Ravens at Chiefs, the 425. Huge game. The winner trying to move to 2-2. Loser falls to 1-3, and 1-3 teams, it's hard to recover and make the playoffs. We've seen it happen, but you'd rather be 2-2. And I trust the Ravens more. Like I know they've had a lot of injuries, and those guys are very, very important. The Ravens have played. If they've put up points as an offense, it's just their defense outside of playing a really bad Browns offense hasn't been able to figure it out. And I think against the struggling Chiefs offense, like Kansas City kind of won last week because New York just their offense isn't really that good with Russell Wilson. I think when they play a Ravens offense that plays well, no Derrick Henry has a fumbling problem. I think the Ravens offense will be formidable, and I think their defense can finally take a massive boost, playing a not so great KC offense and being able to win this game. Moving on to Sunday night, Micah Parsons makes his return. Who knew this is what the storyline was going to be between Green Bay and Dallas? Micah Parsons returning to Jerry's world. I think the Packers win. I mean, Dallas's defense the past 2 weeks, I mean, they've let offenses that have not looked good really at all carve them up. I think Jordan Love will have a bounce back game, and I think Green Bay's defense will be able to shut down this Dallas attack, especially with no CD, with no Tyler Guyton. I think Green Bay is going to have their way. It will be close, but I think because of Green Bay having the better talent on both sides of the ball, Dallas's injuries, I think leads to the Packers going to win. Moving on to a Monday night doubleheader starting off Bengals at the Broncos. Cincinnati looked horrible last week. Taking on a Broncos team that felt like momentum was on their side and then they just couldn't hold on against LA. But I'm going to say Denver at home gets the win. I think Denver will bounce back. I mean, this defense has looked pretty damn good. So I think they'll be able to shut down Cincinnati's offense. And I think, if Bo Nix can just play decent, they can get the win. And then finally, battle of the winless Jets at the Dolphins. I don't know if Justin Fields is playing. If Fields is playing, I'd probably take the Jets. So I am going to pick New York to get this win. I just trust them more. Like last week, despite no Justin Fields, despite being on the road and being down 17 points, and during the fourth quarter, they came back and almost won that game. And it's just Tua. You just can't trust him to, like even against the Bills defense that was letting Miami stay in the game. Tua throws that horrible interception where it's like if he doesn't throw that, Miami potentially has a chance to tie the game and maybe even go into overtime instead they lose it by 10. And I think this Jets team, who probably should have won week one against the Steelers, gets their first win this week. And yeah, so that'll be it. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you guys hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get alerted from every video I make. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Hope you guys have a great day and bye.